Okay. So before starting the session, let me first know you. What you guys think about ASP.NET Core identity? Forget about this term, right? .NET Core or ASP.NET Core, right? So this is not new to ASP.NET Core. This is also available in our old .NET framework, like ASP.NET MVC and ASP.NET WebAPI. So when you heard the term identity, what is the first thing that what comes to your mind? Can anybody tell me any idea, any information,
The
guys?
Identity means
client
authenticity, or
Authenticity.
his
the client which is connected with the our frame solution.
Mm,
So that information's like its ID, its role.
mhm.
And
Okay.
and
Identifying
how
the
to
user.
how I verify that a particular user is valid for valid permission or not. I think
In
so.
that case, I can see if your main purpose is to validate whether the user is right valid or not. I can make use of directly JWT token authentication, basic authentication, right? That thing I can directly use, and using that thing, right, I can verify whether the user is valid or not, right? And in that case, do I need to use identity? See, guys, remember one thing that what I need to tell you is that what authentication you are talking about, basic authentication, token-based authentication using JWT, right? That is different, and the ASP.NET Core identity is different. People are having many right doubts. People are thinking that identity means we are going to use authentication and authorization. So the identity, in simple word, we can say that it is a membership management system. What is this? This is a membership management system. Sir, what do you mean by membership management system? Now, membership management system means what? What functionality is required in your application to manage the user? Whatever functionality is required to manage the user within the application, all those functionalities are going to be provided by the ASP.NET Core right identity. Then, when you think about the user management, or in simple word, you can say this membership management, or you can also call that user management. So, when I'm talking about user management, what are the things that what are the things that should come to your mind? So, first of all, I need some registration functionality. Suppose I want to create a new user. So for that purpose, I need to provide one interface. I need to create some database table. I need to design some services, right? Where the client will provide the data, where the server will process the data, create the data model, use the context object, store the data into the database. So for that purpose, I need some kind of a table, kind of a services or not. Yes or no?
yes,
Right. So one is registration functionality. What is the second one? Second one is login. Second one, login, or you can also call this as right sign in. It's login or sign in. So this registration, or you can also call this as sign out. So sometimes registration, you will also see, right, whenever you visit any application, right, there is a red term, or you can say sign up button is there. So once you click on the sign up button, one page will open where you need to register yourself. Am I right? Or one
yes.
register button will be there. Whenever you click on that
Yes, sir.
register button, one page will open and you need to provide your information. Similarly, apart from this, what I can say, apart from this registration or sign in button, you might be sometimes saying, right, that the login button will be there or sign in button will be there, right? So registration, login or sign up button will be there. So what is the use of this sign in or login functionality? So in this case, whoever the user registered into our application, they are going to log in into our application. That means that login functionality also going to be provided by ASP.NET Core Identity. So here you need to provide the username, user password. sometimes you will find there is something called, right, remember me functionality. You guys, you might be seeing this thing, right? So remember me. Remember me means it will remember the client for a longer period of time, right? So basically, if you look at the right websites like Amazon, Facebook, right, they are providing this remember me functionality. And once you check that remember me functionality, and next time when you visit the application, right, using the same browser, right, then at that time you do not need to provide the login credential again and again. Automatically, once you visit the browser, you will be logged in as a you will be logged you I mean what you can access the application as a logged in user. So that remember me functionality is also provided. So how you can create the session and cookies so that, right, it can be remembered for a longer period of time. That is also going to be provided by this user management system. Apart from this, right, sometimes once the user is login and he wants to log out, or you can say sign out. So that functionality is also provided by, right, what I can say, membership management system. If the user wants to log out, he needs to click on that button. And once he clicked on this button, right, they have provided some kind of services. I mean, this ASP.NET Core identity provides some kind of services. And those services means what? Guys, remember, whenever I'm talking about services means what? Means one class will be there. Inside that class, some method are there. Those methods are called as services, and those methods we need to call of our application. Right. So for registration purpose, so they are provided some class service class, and those service class provide some method for that. Right. For registration purpose, we need to use one method. For login functionality, we need to use another method. For remember me functionality, we need to use another method. For logout and sign out functionality, we need to use another method. Right. So this is fine. Next, what is next, right? Sometimes what happen, right? You can see sometimes we might forget the password, right? So it is a very common thing. Forgot password is there, right? Suppose as a user you forgot your password, then how you can, right, reset your password? So in that case, you need to click on the forgot password button. You need to provide your email ID, and then the password reset link will be sent to your email ID. And once you click on that link, right, one page will be open where it will ask you to enter your new password and confirm password. That forward password functionality is also managed by the or going to be provided by the ASP.NET Core identity. So, and next one is, guys, remember, what is the difference between forgot password and reset password? Can anybody tell me?
Sir, when I forgot my password, then I will click on forgot password. And if I am login and I want to change my password, then I will use the reset password.
Exactly. So whenever you are using forgot password, the password reset link will be sent to your email ID. Using that link, you need to, right, change your password. So this forgot password and the reset password is also called as a change password. Means what? Now once you logged in, and if you want to reset your password, then you need to click on this reset password link. And once you click on, first it will ask you enter your current password. Then it will ask you enter your new password and confirm your new password. So once you click on that button, then again it is going to update your password. So that reset password and forget password functionality is also provided by ASP.NET Core identity. Next one is, right, it is also going to provide the functionality for external authentication. So external authentication means open ID. So people are talking about open authentication, right? So external authentication means, and from your application, you can log in using, right, Google account. You can log in using a Google account. You can log in using Microsoft account, right? You can log in using Twitter account, right? So these are the options, right? Many options are available. You can log in using Google, Facebook, Microsoft, right? So all these things are possible, right? You can also log in using Facebook. All these options are there, right? This is called external authentication, open ID authentication. So that functionality is also provided by ASP.NET Core management system, right? Then it also provides the functionality for role-based authentication, right? So role-based authentication means what? Now, they are providing some kind of a services. Using those services, whatever the user we created, right? Those user can be assigned with, right, some kind of right, what you can say. So some kind of right, you can assign the user with some kind of a roles, and based on the user role, whenever they access the services, they are going to be validated. Means whether the particular user having some kind of a right the role to access that particular service or not. That validation is going to be changed. Not only role-based authentication is there, but also claim-based authentication is there also. Claim-based authentication. So claim-based authentication, see, role-based means what? Now the role user must be a admin user to access that particular resource. User must be a right must be have sells the roles to access that particular resource. That is role-based authentication. So then if role-based authentication is fine, then what do you mean by claim-based authentication? For example, one action method you have or one service you define, and what is your requirement if the user is admin role, and if the user is assigned with the right add claim, update claim, delete claim, then he can perform the add functionality. He can perform the right what I can say delete functionality. He can perform the update functionality. So in that case, this add, delete, and all these things what we are talking, these are claim. So this claim we can assign directly to a user, or this claim we can assign to the right what I can say role. So claim can be assigned to a user, the claim can be assigned to role, and ultimately role means that whatever role we are assigning to the user, those claims are also available for the user. So this means role-based authentication, claim-based authentication is also going to be managed, right? They are also providing some kind of a security features, means right, right, what I can say, password validation means whatever the password you are entering, whether it is will validating the password or not, means what it should be contain some alphabet, it should contain some character, minimum this number of length, right? It should contain some special character, right? So that's kind of a security we can provide. Password hashing mechanism is also there. So automatically in this case, right, whenever we are storing the data, right, whenever we are storing the password, that password is going to be stored in the hash form. Clear?
Yes, sir.
Right. So these are the different kind of things what we can provide. And one more thing I forgot here, right? They are also going to provide UFA. UFA means they are also going to provide two-factor authentication. So by using only sign-in functionality, by providing the username and password is not mandatory. Right? They are also providing two-factor authentication. Right? Not only two-factor authentication, they are also providing some kind of right account lockout functionality. Right? Account lockout means what? If you tried the password, right? If you tried with a three invalid attempt or four invalid attempt, right? Whatever we said, your password is going to be locked for the next 24 hours. So within the next 24 hours, you cannot do anything else, right? So that account lockout functionality is also provided. Apart from this, right, they are also going to provide some functionality like right email and mobile verification. Email and mobile right verification. So what do you mean by email and mobile verification means if you are right when you are registering yourself, you are providing your email and mobile. So if our requirement is that until and unless you have not verified your mobile or verified your email address, right, then you cannot log in into our application. Then in that case, you need to verify your email. So at that time, one verification link will be sent to your registered email address, whatever email address you provide or whatever mobile number you provide. And then one screen will come where you need to provide that verification code. And then your email and mobile number is going to be verified. And in this case also, until and the email and mobile number is not verified, you cannot enable two-factor authentication. So that validation is also implemented by membership management system. Right? Clear, guys?
Yes.
Clear, sir.
Right? Right? So
Yes.
all these things are going to be provided by it, what I can say, ASP.NET Core Identity. Inside this, right, did I mention anything authentication? No. because authentication is different. Validating the user, right? You can make use of clear, right? Basic authentication. You can make use of right Windows authentication. You can make use of right what I can say token-based authentication, right? So there are a different kind of authentication mechanism is there. Whichever approach you want, you can use. But if someone asks you, sir, what do you mean by ASP.NET Core Identity? You need to tell this is a membership management system, so it will provide the complete functionality to manage your user. So without right, without identity, I can also manage all these things. Right? Without using ASP.NET Core Identity, I can manage all these things. So for that purpose, what I need to do, I need to create the database table, their structure, their relationship. I need to create services where I need to write the logic, right? Everything needs to be done by me only. But if I'm using ASP.NET Core Identity, all these functionalities, right, are going to be provided by ASP.NET Core Identity. So in this case also, guys, remember, so user creation, role creation, right, assigning a role to user, updating user, deleting user, right? So I'm not specifying anything, right? So you can create user, you can modify user, you can delete, you can retract. Similarly, you can create role, you can assign roles to user, right? Everything is possible, right? But these are the overall feature, what I can say, that what we are going to implement in our application in our coming days. So these are the things, or you can say key features, which is provided by ASP.NET Core Identity. Clear?
Yes, sir. So it is like authorization mainly of
No, not
identity.
authorization. See, that is completely different story. So if I'm doing any registration or login functionality, that authorization and authentication will need in this case, forgot password.
No,
So that's authentication and authorize. See, authentication and authorization is a part. So don't consider that ASP.NET Core Identity is all about authentication and authorization. Yes, they are providing the security feature, but ASP.NET Core Identity is not all about the security. It is about a user management system. User management system means how a user create his own account, how a user manage his account, how a user delete his account, how a user So for example, if I'm going to store a password, if the password is not according to our password policy, so is there any relation between password policy with the authentication and authorization system? You
no,
are creating a user account and you are not providing a strong password. So there is no relation between authentication and authorization. They are part of identity, but ASP.NET Core Identity is not all about authentication and authorization. This is a membership management system. Now, so if I ask you to develop one database and provide this functionality, you can implement this functionality without using identity also. You need to design the database, you need to design the right services, and you need to provide the endpoints, right? And then we can start consuming those endpoints and it is going to do the operation behind the scene. So that is completely possible. Why I'm going to do all those things, right? Whenever the ready-made ASP.NET Core Identity is available, which I can use directly on my application, and that identity is going to provide all these functionalities. Clear?
yes, sir.
Yes.
Right?
Hello, sir. Please, like I miss you a little, like some seconds. I didn't get what you were saying.
Sorry.
I miss you for like 2 or 3 seconds. I didn't hear what you were saying.
So you missed one.
I said I miss you for like 5 seconds. I didn't get what you were saying. You just came back now. Can you come again? What you
No,
just
no,
said, finish.
no. I can't repeat the things, right? If you join late. So you need to go through the recording.
No, I said I miss you
No,
now. Just few minutes ago. I wasn't hearing what you were saying. Like few minutes, seconds ago.
So which particular concept you are not understanding out of this 13 points? Just tell me.
No,
no,
I
he
could
said he didn't hear
understand.
you. Said he didn't hear you the last 2 minutes that he did about
Yeah,
2 seconds. He
yeah.
didn't hear you.
Yeah. I didn't hear what you said. I understand.
Your
Yeah.
voice was not clear.
Guys, okay, guys, my voice is not audible for the last few minutes, or I'm audible clearly to all of you guys.
Sir, clear
Yes, well,
voice is
maybe
clear.
to him. Maybe to him. Maybe his
So
computer
maybe
also.
it is say, guys, remember, if I'm not audible means I should not be audible to everyone. If I'm audible to all of the members, but you few guys, right, one or two guys are unable to listen my voice, it's because of your internet issues, not from my end, right? If it is from my end, then it should be for everyone. But if it is only from your end, that means, right, what it means, right, your internet might be down or slow. Because of that reason, you are unable to, right, what I can say, listen my voice. Right, so see, by looking at this point, right, you just tell me, right, whichever point you are not understanding out of this
I
13
could
points.
I could understand all the 13 points, but the last like few seconds I just missed you, but it came back again. No problem. Go ahead, sir. Okay.
Forget about what I explained. So by looking at this point, right, 13 point, whichever point you are not understanding.
No, I got all the explanation. I got all the explanation. Go ahead, sir.
See, this is not right. So I'm not discussing anything special, anything new. Alright, so you know what to mean by password validation. You know what to mean by password hashing. What do you mean by account lockout, email and mobile number verification, right? So these are very common things, right? So commonly, right, if you right to go to any kind of web application nowadays, these are the functionality, minimum functionalities they are providing, right? So if you are not
Yeah.
understanding any particular right explanation or particular key feature what I mentioned in this list, then ask me, I will explain.
Okay, sir.
If anything is there inside this list which you are not understanding, then I'm ready to explain.
Yeah. No, I'm okay. You can go ahead, sir. You can go ahead, sir. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you. Right.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so these are the key feature what we have discussed. Now, how we can implement these things? Right. So how we can implement this thing? Guys, remember, so first of all, right, if you want to develop any database, what are the things you need? First of all, what you need to do? You need to define some kind of a model based on which the database is going to be created or not. Yes or no?
Yes.
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 So in this case, right, ASP.NET Core Identity provided us with two models. What are these model? Identity, user, and another one is, guys, tell me, identity, role. So these are the two models which is provided by ASP.NET Core Identity for managing the user and the role data. So these are the two models. So this identity user, it provides many function, many properties you can say like username, email, mobile number, security pass, right? Each two-factor authentication enabled, each user account logout, right? All these required columns which are required for a user. So that is what provided by identity user. Now here you might be one question, sir. Whatever the default properties are provided inside this model, if that is not fulfill our business requirement, for example, there is no column for first name, there is no column for last name, there is no column for date of birth. But this field I required in my application. So how I can do this? So in that case, what you need to do, you need to use your inheritance. So inheritance means what? Create a custom class inheriting from, let's tell me, inheriting from
Identity.
user. And inside this custom class, whatever custom properties you want, you can provide. And then instead of using identity user in our application, what I need to do, I need to use this custom class.
Custom.
Clear?
Yes.
Right? So this custom properties are required, then only go ahead and create the custom class, inheriting from this identity user class, and use the same thing. If it is not required, don't create any. See, if not required any custom properties, then why should I create a custom class? Doesn't make any sense. Similarly, this role means it is going to also provide the role ID. The role name means whatever the ID 1, 2, 3. Role name means admin, super admin, user, sales, right? This thing. And here, and the security code is there, right? For security, there is a concurrency column. See, guys, remember, whenever I'm creating this identity user and identity role, the concurrency column should be there. Concurrency for why we are using the concurrency and the timestamp column, guys? We have discussed in entity framework code. we handle the concurrency, right? If two transactions or two users trying to access the same data, right, and they are going to do the update operation, if you are not handling the concurrency, then one operation is going to be override by the other operations. To handle this thing, we need to use concurrency column. So this identity user, identity role, they are also provided with some kind of a concurrency column. We'll see all these things, right? And in this case also, if you want to provide some additional column, for example, you are providing one role with the admin, and you want to provide the description about that role. So what are the things the admin can do, right? That description. Then if that customization is required, then what you need to do? You need to create a class, right? You need to create a class, and that class must be inherited from the identity role class. So basically, we are provided with two classes. One is identity user, another one is identity role. So these are the model classes which is provided by ASP.NET Core Identity. We can use these model classes directly, and based on these model classes, some database tables are also created for managing the data. And when we use these classes, right, they are going to deal with the right behind the scene database table. If we want to customize, then it is also possible. So for that purpose, what I need to do, we need to create a custom class inheriting from the identity user class. If we want to add some additional properties to the users table, right, and in the same time, if we want to provide some custom column for the role, we need to create a custom class inheriting from this identity role class. Clear or not?
Yes.
Okay, sir.
Right now. Now, see, by using this thing, right, it is not right. What I can say, efficient, right? So efficient means this is fine. But do you think that without the DB context class or entity framework core, entity framework core, guys, remember, entity framework core uses right? Sorry, ASP.NET Core Identity. And so this ASP.NET Core Identity uses entity framework core. It uses entity framework core to do the operations. Right? So ASP.NET Core Identity uses entity framework core for managing the data. For managing the data means for creating the data, for retrieving the data, for performing operation, right? All these things it is going to do using entity framework core. So without the DP context class, is it possible to communicate with the database?
No.
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 Without DB context, it is not possible to communicate with the database. So what this entity from identity, right, from our ASP.NET Core Identity provide, it provide one ready-made DB context class. What is that? Identity DB context class. So inside this identity DB context class, all the DB set properties, how to initialize the database, how to maintain the relationship between the database, right? Everything is provided by this DB context class. And this DB context class is inherited from the entity framework core DB context class. Clear? So ASP.NET Core Identity provide one DB context class, and this DB context class inherited from the right entity framework or DB context class. Why they provide this DB context class? Because right, without this DB context class, how our ASP.NET Core Identity will communicate with the database? It is not possible. So that is the reason why they have provided the DB context class. Within this DB context class, all the settings, all the configuration, all the DB set properties, right, they are provided. And when and what we need to do, we need to create our custom DB context class. We need to create our custom, right? We need to create our custom DB context class. We need to create our custom DB context class inherited from identity DB context class. So why now you might have a question. So why we need this identity DB context class in our class? Because we need to provide the right connection string where the database will be created. Does this DB context class aware about it? Guys, tell me. So this DB context class, what I'm talking about, is he know where to create the database?
No. No.
So we need to decide now where we should create the database. So for that purpose, what I need to do, we need to create this custom DB context class. In this custom DB context class should be inherited from identity DB context class. And inside this custom DB context class, so this custom DB context class, we need to provide the connection string where to create the database, right? And this custom DB context class, we need to register into the right dependency injection container, or you can say IOC. And so here we need to register this into the dependency injection container, right? But internally you can see, so right, and inside this DB context class, right, you can also add your entities, right? For example, this DB context class is for user members management system. But from this entities, do you want any additional database tables? Do you want to maintain any additional data? Yes, I want to maintain. So, okay, no issue. So if you want to maintain, you can define such properties within this DB context class. Clear?
Yes.
And now this DB context class, custom DB context class, what we created, which is inherited from identity DB context class. So that what we need to register in our program class. So within the built-in dependency injection container, we also need to define the connection string in the right app settings or anywhere else, and you need to use the same while we are registering the DB context in my application. Clear, guys? So first of all, we are having two model classes. These are built-in model classes. If you want to, you can create a custom model class inheriting from this. We are already this identity DB context class. See, in this case, creating a custom class is optional. So this is a model. So this model override creating a custom model, inheriting from this is optional, but this is mandatory. Without this class, right, I cannot specify where the database should be created. Right? So for that purpose, I need to create a context of class inheriting from DB context. This DB context is also internally inheriting from the right, this identity DB context inherited from the DB. So this is right, creating or extending the identity user identity role is optional, but creating a custom class here is mandatory. Clear, guys?
Okay, sir.
Right now. Now we are having the model, we are having the context object. Now what we need to do, we need to provide some kind of a functionality, right? We need to provide a functionality for creating a user, retrieving the user, updating the password, right? Deleting the user, creating role, assigning role to user, right? Enabling two-factor authentication, right? Generating the forgot password link, right? Providing the verification email link, right? So all this functionality we require. So for this purpose, right, what identity provided, it provided some kind of a services. So what are the services it provide? It provide basically three services. Can anybody tell me what are these three services?
Which services do you mean, sir?
So see, for managing the data, right, for managing the operations. See, services, when I'm talking about services means functions. So this is my model. So inside this model, I cannot define any function. This is my context object, which is basically responsible for communicating with the database. Suppose now I want to write what I can say, add a new user. If I want to retrieve the user by the primary key or based on the username, based on the email address. So for this purpose, they are provided some kind of services. Services mean methods, and these methods they are grouped into three different service classes. What are the service classes? One is user manager of a T type, right? And in this case, this T is nothing but T is nothing but a type. T is nothing but a type inherited from T is nothing but a type. T is nothing but you can say T is okay, nothing but no, T is identity user or a class which is inherited from identity user. Clear? So this T means you can specify identity user, or you can specify a class which is inherited from identity user. Suppose you create a custom class, right? Suppose you create a custom class, that class name is application user, right? Suppose you created a custom class application user. Then in this case, T is going to be application user, right? So this user manager provides services for managing the operation on user data. On user means say create a user, modify a user, retrieve a user, delete a user, right? All these functionalities are going to be provided by this user manager class. Clear?
Yes, that's clear.
Right. The second one is provided by them is role manager. Right. So this is going to be role manager. So this role manager means what? Now role manager of T. So in this case, this T is going to be your identity. T is identity user or a class which is inherited from identity. Clear? So when I'm going to use role manager service, I need to specify on which model it is going to use. That is a generic class. So this generic class user model means you need to specify what is the model on which this class is being applied. So it can be your identity role, the built-in model which is provided by right, ASP.NET Core identity, or it can be a custom class which is inherited from the identity user. Similarly, role manager, for example, you want to create a role, you want to update a role, right? You want to assign a role to a user, right? So for role management, you need to use this one. And another one is sign-in manager. Sign-in manager of a T. So in this case, right, the T is also going to be a user entity. Right? So this sign-in manager means what? It is going to provide the functionality for user login, user logout, right? Then to external authentication. So all the functionality which is related to login and logout, those things. So this is user manager means managing the user data, creating user, adding user, modifying user, all these things. Role manager means managing the role data, performing the right crowd operation on the role. So sign-in manager means login, logout functionality, right? These are going to be provided by this sign-in manager class. So these are the three different services which is provided by ASP.NET Core Identity. Now, you have to remember these three things. What are the things you need to remember? So what are the models provided by ASP.NET Core Identity 2 model? What is this? Identity user and identity role. What is the DB context class provided by ASP.NET Core Identity? Identity DB context. So this model, what they provide, we can create customize. Customize means we can create a custom class inherited from that identity user or inherited from that identity role. This identity DB context, this is the context of class which is provided by ASP.NET Core Identity, which is also inherited from DB context. And inside this class, it manages all the configurations which is required for generating and managing the right data in the what I can say in the identity database. But this identity DB context doesn't have any idea how to create the data, right? Where to create the database. So for that purpose, we need to create a custom class. And inside that custom class, right, this custom class, we need to register in our application program class, where we need to provide the connection string and all these things. So services means they are going to provide some set of method which we can use directly to do the operations. Now, for creating a right user, we do not need to do anything special. Whatever the user update, that is identity user. So we can use this user manager to add user async method or add user method, and we just need to pass that user. That's it. Validating the user data, storing the user into the database, or everything, right? That is going to be taken care by identity. We just needs to make the object ready. You create the instance of the respective manager classes or services classes, call the respective method. That's it. Clear?
Yes.
Right? So this is just the overview what I have provided, right? So what is the prerequisites? The prerequisites is you should have basic understanding of ASP.NET Core. You should have MVC design, MVC knowledge, and you should have Web API knowledge. So why I'm talking about, right, so in this case, MVC, right, guys, remember, so this ASP.NET Core identity, right, so this ASP.NET Core identity, it can be used, right, so it can be used, right, with your MVC application. You can use ASP.NET Core identity in MVC as well as using Web API, right? So this kind of application you can use. If you are using MVC, right, then both front end and back end you can implement. Front end and right, what I can say, front end and back end. Means what? Now, whatever the backend functionality, that is what I'm going to provide. But the front-end functionality is also required or not? We need to create one user interface. In that interface, we should have sign in, register, sign out button. We should have some menus. The menus are going to be displayed based on the user role. We should have that register functionality, right? Login functionality. Whenever I'm providing the login functionality, all the password, right? Whatever the user data we want to take. Whenever I'm providing the login functionality, remember me functionality is also there. Forgot password functionality is there, right? Two-factor authentication verification functionality is there, right? If you want to log in with Facebook, that Facebook logo or one button will be there. What I can say, Google button will be there, using which you can log in, right? So all these things are required, right, at the front end. So if you want to implement both front end and back end, you can go with MVC. If you don't require the front end part and you are thinking front end is not my responsibility, my responsibility is only to provide the back end. In that case, you can develop only one Web API application. And in that case, right, what I need to do, you need to use this Web API. Let's remember, if you are using front end, right, then another thing what you need to remember, for both front end and back end, what service unit registered into the program class add identity. So if I'm using this add identity service, service means what? To the program class, so we need to use app.builder, right? Builder that services dot add identity, which will provide the services required for the ASP.NET Core identity. If you need both front end and back end, you need to use add identity, which is required in case of a MVC application. But if you are working with the ASP.NET Core Web API, where front end is not my responsibility, that is going to be designed by someone else, some different kind of application. My responsibility is only to provide right, services, right, which are going to be consumed by the client application. Then in that case, what I need to do, I need to use ASP.NET Add Identity Core. So this add identity we need to use if we are working with the MVC application, which is going to provide both the front end and the back end. And if you are working with the Web API, only the front end part is there. Sorry, only the back end part is there. Front end part is not there. So you guys decide, you want to learn both the front end and back end, or you want to learn only the back end part.
Sir, both will be
Both,
better.
both is better.
So if I am working with both, then it is your responsibility. Right? So whatever functionality I will explain using MVC, the same thing you need to implement using right Web API. And you need to test the same using Postman, using Fiddler, using Swagger. That is your responsibility. Right? So but the
Okay,
thing is
sir.
that behind the scene, whatever logic we are going to write for the backend functionality in a MVC application, the logic is more on most of the time it is going to be same. Right? So what I'm going to do, right? I'm going to use MVC to explain ASP.NET Core identity. Web API part you will be taken care by yourself. It is very easy, right? So once you understand the concept, once you understand how it is working front end, back end, right? This is not a big deal. You can easily implement, right? And that part you need to take care. Is that clear?
Yes.
Yes.
Right?
Okay.
Right? So because this is not a big deal. So here, whatever backend functionality we will implement, the same backend functionality you need to implement in web API. Here, for testing the purpose, we are having the front end user interface. Here, for testing purpose, you can use Postman, Swagger, Fiddler, right? Any kind of a client. Clear?
Yeah, sir. But nowadays, most of the every industry is using web API. It's not
Obviously, so
used.
that is what I'm saying now. So once you understand the MVC, here what you understand both front end and back end. So back end means already what web API going to use. Those things are also we are going to cover here. You are not getting my point. So in this case, what is this? Back end. So the back end is I'm covering here or not? Back end means you need to create
Mhm.
some action method only. Right? So those action method also we are going to create here. The front end part here here not available. So here if I'm using MVC, both the front end and the back end are available. So what I am doing, so whatever functionality and whatever features we are going to develop on a daily basis, please try to do the same thing using web API. And let me know
Sure.
if you guys are facing any kind of issues. Right? So why I'm showing, why I'm going to use MVC? Because I want to give a clear picture. Clear picture means how it is working on the front end also. Clear? Otherwise, if you are guys interested only the
Perfect, sir.
back,
Perfect, sir.
I can also explain using only backend. But in that case, right, front end functionality you will not understand. But if I'm using MVC, both the front end and the back end you will understand. So you only guys decide what option I need to use. MVC or web API. Anyone is fine for me.
MVC.
MVC.
Both. Both. Thank
MVC.
you, both.
You will get both clarity. And guys, remember, right, what I can tell you, recently Microsoft launched .NET 9, right? And yesterday only, I installed .NET 9 on my machine. So as I told earlier, right, whenever something new comes into market, so I will start the new one. So what I'm going to do from today onwards, from this ASP.NET Core identity, we are going to develop the application using .NET 9. Is that fine?
Wow,
Yes,
nice.
sir.
Nice.
Yes.
Nice.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Right, sir? Right. So for that purpose, what you need to do, guys, you need to install .NET 9 SDK on your machine. And you guys know how to install SDK 9?
Yes, sir.
Yes, yes.
Right. So basically, right, I have provided the link, right? If you see, this is my right, so website. So install .NET SDK. So come to this page. .NET Microservices download. So here you can see .NET SDK they recently installed. So you need to install this one. Once you install this one, update your Visual Studio. Right. Once you update Visual Studio, right? You know how to update Visual Studio, guys. So open Visual Studio. So first of all, you need to install this one. Then open Visual Studio installer. Once you open Visual Studio installer, right, then you will see this is my 2022, which I updated yesterday, right? So there is no update option. For community edition, you can see there is a update button. For right, what I can say, this 2019, there is a update button, right? So just make sure to update the Visual Studio. So once you update, then it will work as expected, right? So I'm targeting .NET 9 to explain this concept, right? So let us proceed and see how we can do this. But before that, you should have some basic understanding of ASP.NET Core. You should have very good knowledge of C# programming. Basic knowledge of HTML, CSS, JavaScript is fine. Otherwise, I'm going to take care of this part because this is optional. As a .NET developer, we should not think too much about this thing. Entity Framework Core, it is mandatory because Entity Framework Core is going to be internally used by ASP.NET Core identity and basic understanding of any database, right? Any database, SQL, MySQL, Oracle, right? Whatever database you take into consideration, this is going to work, no doubt about it. But in this case, we are going to use ASP.NET, right? What I can say, ASP.NET, right? We are going to use SQL Server. Okay, let us proceed and do the setup for ASP.NET Core identity. So first of all, what I need to do, I need to create a new project. So this time, what I'm doing, I'm going to create a new project, ASP.NET Core MVC project, and this project is going to target .NET 9. So here you can see, this is going to be my template ASP.NET Core Web App using model view controller. Next button, you can give the project name and in which location you want to create the project, that location you need to provide. So this is the location where I'm creating this project. Then click on the next button. And here you can see, if you want to use .NET 8, you can select .NET 8. If you want to use .NET 9, then you can select .NET 9. Right? So I select .NET 9 and click on the, right, what I can say, create button. So once I click on the create button, right, here you can see authentication I have selected as none. So by default, I have not provided any kind of authentication. So that what you need to remember. So this is the project, what it is created by default. Now, so once the project is created, then what I need to do, I need to install the required packages. So how many packages I need to install? At least 3 packages. One is for identity. Another one is for SQL Server data provider, entity framework or data provided for SQL Server. Another package is the tools package, entity framework tools, which is required for migration. So in this case, you can see what are the packages I need to install. First, I need to install this package, which is going to provide the services for ASP.NET Core identity in ASP.NET Core identity in ASP.NET Core Web Application. So in ASP.NET Core Web Application, if you want to use identity, then you have to install this package. So we are very aware about these 2 packages, which is required for SQL Server data provider for entity framework core, and this is the tools package which is used for generating the database migration. So first of all, what I need to do, I need to install these 3 packages. Is that clear? So if someone asks you which package is required, so you have to tell a Microsoft.ASP.NET Core identity.entity framework core. So in this case, guys, remember, if I'm installing this package using install package or package manager console window, so in that case, always it is going to install the package using latest version. For example, suppose I'm developing one application, right? Suppose I'm developing one application. Let's say one ASP.NET Core Web API. So let me give this project whatever the default name. Let target this one, .NET 8. So if I'm targeting this one, then what will happen? I can see. So in this case, if I'm currently it is targeting .NET 8. This is targeting .NET 9. So I'm trying to install the package using package manager console. This is the same package which I need to install. Okay, I just click the enter button. So this time this package is installed successfully. Why? Because always whenever I'm going to use the install package command, it is going to take the latest version, and latest version for identity is 9. And this project is developed using the .NET using .NET 9. So this is the reason why there is no issue. But coming to this web API project, right? What version we have selected here for .NET? Guys, tell me what version we have selected.
8.
The target is .NET 8, .NET Core 8. So in this case, this package is required. This is a .NET Framework Core 9 package. So 9 is compatible with 8.
No.
No. So let us try to understand what I'm getting here. I'm getting this error that this package is not compatible. And here clearly saying this package is not compatible with .NET 8. Now, what is your requirement? Your management instruct where I'm not going to use .NET 9, which is not providing what I can say long-term support. I want to still use .NET 8. Then how I can install? So in that case, what you need to do, just to clear this window, go to Tools, Package Manager for Solution, browse for the respective package. Microsoft.ASP.NET Core Identity. Latest version is this one, 9. But here you need to select 8. Right? Once you select 8, click on the install button. So this time it will install the ASP.NET Core Identity 8 without any issues. Okay, so apply
Will there
the
not be
changes.
conflict? Will there
Why
not be a
there
conflict?
My conflict. Here the target framework is 8 and we are installing the .NET ASP.NET Core Identity 8. So why should we have conflict?
Because you are using 9.
So if I'm using 9, there is a conflict, right? If I'm using .NET Framework 8 or .NET Core 8 and the package 9, there is a conflict. But if the .NET Framework, .NET Core Framework is 8 and the package version is 8, there should not be any conflict, right? So here you can say it is installing the package, right? 8.0.1. So 8 is compatible with 8, and here you can say it is going to be 9. Here .NET Framework is 9, and here the package is also 9. So compatible. So with .NET 9, you can still use .NET right, ASP.NET Core Identity 8. That is possible. Clear, guys?
Yes.
Right.
So
So
please,
once
can you explain again? Excuse me. You said with .NET 9, you can still use package 8, you said.
Yeah, is there any issue? So if I'm developing the .NET application 9, if I'm using any package or lower version of package, is there any compatibility issue? That is fine. See,
Okay.
in a bucket, right? If you are having one bucket and one mog, so can I put mog inside the bucket? That is fine. But can I put
Yeah.
bucket inside the mog? That is not possible. So whenever I'm using the latest, what I can say, whenever I'm using the latest framework, I can use the older version of the packages. But
Okay.
if the framework is older and package is latest, that is not compatible. Getting my point? So in this
Yeah.
case,
Yeah.
latest package is latest, fine. Framework is the latest, package is the lower version, that is also fine, no issue. They are providing the backward compatibility. But if the framework is old, package is latest, at that time conflict will occur. So whatever features they are providing, they will not work. Clear, guys?
Yes, sir.
So it depends more on the framework. That is what we should think first.
Yes,
The
yes,
framework.
yes,
Yeah, yeah.
yes.
Okay, thank
Right. Next, what I need to do, I need to generate the SQL server, right? And again, in this case, right, what I'm going to do, I'm going to install the entity framework or older package, right? So not this option. So here, what I need to do, I need to provide this option. Microsoft.entity framework core.sql server. So here also I need to select the here also I need to select the old versions, right? And click on this install button. It is taking time. Okay. Yeah. Apply the changes, accept the license. That's it. The next one is package manager tools, which I can install, right, using my package manager console, because here we are installing the latest version, right? And this package manager tool, I'm going to this page and I'm installing from the, right, what I can say, NuGet package manager solution. So this is, and here I need to select the older one. So I have shown you, right, both options. If you want to install the latest version, always you can go with package manager console. And if you want to install some previous version, then you can install the same using, right, NuGet package manager for selection. So here you can see the packages are targeting .NET right, version 8. The packages are 8, and here packages are going to be 9. Clear, guys?
Yes.
Yes, sir. Exactly.
Yes.
So we have installed the packages. So once we install the packages, right, first of all, what we need to do? We need to define the DB context class. So as I have already told you, so whenever we are going to create the DB context class, so our context class should and must be inherited from the identity DB context class. So let us proceed and go ahead and create our context class. Let me give the context class name is, right, what I can say, application DB context. Inside this model folder, create a class file, application DB context. and let me inherited this class from the what I can say DB context class. So identity DB context. See, in this case, you can see I have only defined the constructor, and here my class is inherited from identity DB context. So this identity DB context, it is provided by ASP.NET Core Identity. Right. So this is, you can see, this is the package which is required for identity, and this identity DB context. Right. Say if you go further, then you will see it must be inherited from the identity. Here it is.
Up.
Your T role. It is indirectly, right? At some point of time, you will see this class is also inherited from the DP context, which is the base class for entity framework code to interact with the database, right? So this is where it is inherited from, right? So this is what we have created. Next, what we need to do, we need to also create one context class here. So let me go ahead and create a folder. Okay, let me give the folder name as models. Any name you can give, no issue. Create a class file. So this is my application DB context class. And this class, right, whatever code I have written here, let me copy these things. That is also fine. Clear? Or any question? So you have to create a context class which is must be inherited from the IDB context class. Now here I'm not providing the things connection string because these things I need to provide in my program class. Clear, guys?
Yes.
Right. So first of all, we have to install the required packages. Second thing, right, what I need to do, I need to install the what I can say. I need to create the DB context class now. Third thing, I want to configure, right, what I can say ASP.NET Core Identity. If I want to configure ASP.NET Core Identity, I have two methods. One is add identity, another one is add identity code. So which one I need to use in which application? Let us try to understand. So in this case, right, what I'm doing here, I'm configuring, right, this is my embassy application. So what I'm doing here, I'm configuring identity. So configuring identity. And here, what method I'm using, guys?
Identity.
Add identity. So add identity, why I'm using? Because I need both front end and backend services, right? And in this case, while I'm configuring the identity, so what are the model that what I need to specify? What are the model provided by ASP.NET Core Identity?
Identity role and the identity users.
Identity user and identity role by default, right? Later I'll show you how you can customize this. If you customize whatever the custom table name or class name, that what you need to provide, right? So in this case, I'm not providing any customization at this point. So what I'm using here, identity, right, user and identity role. And here also I'm saying add entity framework store means what? Wherever the data, right, it is going to store. For storing the data automatically internally, the framework is going to use application DB context which we just created, because this application DB context know where to create the database. That information we have not yet provided, but we will provide, right, where to store the database. But in this case, right, what I need to do, guys, I need to use what method? I'm getting this error.
EF core we have to.
This is going to be the services. I think they have removed this, right, from.
This is 8.
I think they have removed this completely. Okay, so forget about. So now you can consider the from the latest one, right? Or you can say previously it was there, but now there is nothing, right? So only identity service is there, which you need to use, right? Irrespective of MVC and a web API application, that is fine. Right? So
And they
here
make
you
it
can
easier.
Sir,
It's easier now.
do we have to import EF4 for add identity code?
no. So add identity code, this service is not provided by EFA core. This is provided by ASP.NET Core identity, right? So that is
Okay.
what I need to provide. So add identity service, that is fine, right? So one service they are right. They are basically what I can say. They are simply right. What I can say, simplifying your task, right? Why you should use different types of services? Only one service, that is fine, right? So add identity is not available, so we can simply remove these things. So add identity core is not there, so only add identity. So this configuration difference what I have provided, this is no longer required, right? So that is fine. Okay.
Excuse me.
Yes.
How do we know when it is removed? Uh, why did you say it is removed?
See, why they are removing? Because to simplify, why you should remember, right?
No,
Why you
no.
should
I understand. I understand. But how do you know? Suppose I'm developing and I
because it
was
is not
confused.
working here. Because it is not working here. If I'm using
Okay.
add identity code, it is giving that this there is no such services available, so which I cannot use. So if I'm not
Okay.
if I'm unable to use means that might be removed, right? So not might be removed,
Okay.
they have removed altogether, right? That's fine. So
Okay.
now, right, once this is done, right, next what I need to do, I need to configure the connection string where I need to create the database, right? So for example, so I want to create the database inside my this database server. The database name is going to be identity core DB. And here I'm using connection string. And in my web API application, I'm also going to do the same thing. But here, uh, identity DB. So instead of identity core DB, I'm giving the different name, that is identity DB, right? And here also, what I want to do, I want to change, right? So identity TP here I'm provided, and here I'm giving right core identity TP. So different name. Why I'm not using identity TP? Because I have already created this identity core DB for the testing for the R&D purpose. So that is the reason why I have given a different name, identity TP, and here core identity TP, right? So there should not be any right confusion, right? So once I provide the connection string, then what I need to do, I need to register the right application to be context to use this connection string inside my program class, right? So how you can do this, you know this very well, right? So how to do this thing? So this is my application DB context I'm registering, and I'm telling please use SQL Server method because the database is going to be SQL Server, and the connection string you can read from the application configuration file. The same thing I can also do here. Clear, guys?
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So basically, here we are telling that we are dealing with SQL Server database, and the connection string you can fetch from the right app settings.json file where the key is going to be SQL Server identity connection. So this is what I have provided, right? Then what we need to make sure, we need to make sure that authentication and authorization middleware should be there, right? So let me put these two things. So in the program.cs class file, you will see authentication middleware is there. So apart from this authentication, we can also write the authorization middleware. So these two things are there. One is for authentication and another one is for authorization. The same thing I can also do here. This is my authentication, and also I need to write the authorization. So guys, remember first authentication, then authorization will come into the picture. So don't put authorization first and then authentication. First we need to validate the user, then only we are going to validate whether the user has permission to access the resource or not for the validated user. So first authentication, then authorization. So these are the services what we need to register. So once we register the services, next what we need to do, we need to generate the migration. So for generating the migration, what I can write add migration command. add MIG, RATION, add migration, MIG1. Okay, then we need to update the. So here I'm not providing any DBset properties, right? But you will see few tables are going to be created in the database. That is because of the identity, right, in DB context. So that identity DB context internally provides some DBset properties. Internally, it defines some kind of models, right? Based on the model DBset, right, model and the relationship, right? It is automatically going to create the database, right? So meanwhile, what I'm doing, I'm also going to generate the migration file in my Red Console application, sorry, in my WebAPI application. So here also I'm writing add migration. Any name you can give here inside this project. And here also I can write object hyphen database. So build still it is processing, not completed. Why it is taking time? I'm not sure. Is the database down? Let me check this one. Because sometimes if the database is down, it will unable to communicate. Might be the database is down. Okay, let me close this one.
It is busy.
I don't know what is this happening. Core transaction count is. What is this? What is this? What is this?
Using Task Manager, you can.
Yeah, that is the last option.
Restart SQL service.
Yeah, that is fine. But it should be stopped. Okay, let me go ahead and stop the services. Yeah, that Visual Studio stopped, right?
Excuse
Sorry,
me?
no, nothing to be excused, right? So in this case, we have already, it already, right, yeah, closed that window. It's the same as window. Okay, let me restart the visual, right? Let me restart the instance. So you can see that the timeout exception should be there. That's fine. Why it is taking so much time to stop the service?
Maybe it is used by some application. I don't know.
We have already closed the service. Okay, now restart this one.
Running.
Let me again restart this one to make sure it is working. Okay, now open SSMS. statement want to recover. Okay, now it should work. Okay, okay, fine. So now let me proceed, and right, what I can say, update the database once more. Okay, this is fine. Also, let me go ahead and update the database once more. This should also generate the required database. Okay. So now, now what I need to do, I need to refresh the table. So you can see one identity DB is there, core identity DB is there, right? So let me expand this identity DB, and you will see few tables: ASP.NET role claims, ASP.NET roles, user claims, user logins, ASP.NET user roles, ASP.NET user. So these are the different tables that what it is created. Clear?
Yes, sir.
So this add
Automatic
identity core,
automatic
Yes. Yes, please.
this add identity core is there, right? So that one, if you add the roles class, then only it is throwing error. So if you remove it and give only user class, it should work.
No, I'm not getting what is your query?
That add identity core you told it is removed, right? It is not removed. Like you need to pass only the identity user, not the role.
Okay. So might be there, right? It might be there. Suppose, for example, you are talking about this thing, right? Identity core, and we only need to provide the identity user. That is what you are talking. Yeah. So that is fine. So,
Yeah.
right? What is the syntax I might be forgot? So that is what you can also use. No issue, right? So this is done, right? Next, what I need to do is we need to understand, right? The tables, right? Whatever the tables are there in the database, that what we need to understand. Clear? So till now, right? Any question, guys?
So these tables, it is created, we can change the names through code,
We
or
will discuss. See, why are we thinking so much about the customization from the day one? What I'm saying, whatever the table name, whatever the properties inside this table, we can customize. And we'll discuss all these things, right? Yeah, in our coming sessions. For now,
yes, sir.
let us go with the basic concept to understand, right, all these things. So first of all, let us try to understand, right, what are these tables? So let us try to understand one by one. So ASP.NET users table, you can see one table is there, that is ASP.NET users. And if you expand the columns, and these are the columns. So what is this table? So this table is the right core user information table. Means what? Whenever we are going to create any new user, that the user information is going to be stored inside this table. These are the default columns which is there. If you want to extend this table, you can also extend by creating a custom class inheriting from this identity user class, and then whatever the new columns you provided, those columns are going to be created along with this existing column. So you cannot remove any column, you can only extend the column, right? So why I can't remove any column? Because the logic they are used internally, so you cannot remove, you can only extend. Now if you look at this table, so there is a ID column which is going to be, right, the identity column, unique column, username, right? So this is auto-generated identity username. This is unique. You cannot provide any duplicate name, username, right? It is going to be unique. Normalized username. This is used for the case sensitive purpose, right? For example, if you are providing some name, so whatever the name you stored here, that uppercase version is going to be stored in this, right? The normalized username column. And this is only used when you are comparing, right? Suppose you want to fetch the data based on the username. So what exactly it's going to do? Whatever the data you are using, that will be converted into uppercase, and that name is going to be checked inside this in normalized username. Only used for the case sensitive comparison. Similarly, whatever the email you provided, that is going to be stored here. Normalized email means the uppercase version of the name. Sometimes what will happen, we need to fetch the name user by username. We need to fetch the email by, right, user by email address, right? So that is what it is provided, normalized email. Email confirm means, right, whether you have verified your email. So means when this is going to be confirmed. Now whenever you send one email confirmation link to the user enter the link, and it is going to verify what that OTP what it is sent to the user. Once you verified, then that email confirm pass field is going to be true. Password was hash means what, whatever the password you stored, right? That password hash version it is going to store automatically inside into this red column. So by default, right, whatever data we are storing that is going to be in plain text. But password should not be stored in plain text. It should be in hash format. So by default, it is going to store the password in hash format, right? So that anyone, right, who have access to this table, they cannot see the password of any user. Security stamp, right? Security stamp means what? Now this security stamp is only going to be updated when you are updating the security related information. For example, when you update the password, when you reset the password, when you change the password, right? So for that kind of functionality, whenever you enable the two-factor authentication, right? So in that case, this password hash value is going to be updated. For example, let assume you are accessing this data from your mobile application, from your system one and from your system two. And all these systems, right, they can, once you log in, you can access and you are accessing. Now from system one, right, you are changing the password. And once you are changing the password, do you think that your application and your, right, whatever, what I can say, the system two, they can still access your application? Already session token is there, which validate is for 1 year. So within 1 year, they can easily access, but no, they can't access. Why? Because the security stamp is going to be changed. So every time you change the something which is related to right, your login functionality, so at that time the security stamp is going to be changed. And once it is changed, then right, whenever from a mobile application or from whenever you are accessing the application from system two, at that time whatever the session token will be sent, that token is going to be invalid. Why? Because the security stamp is going to be changed, and that is what. And this is only going to be changed whenever you are updating the fields which are related to your application login functionality. So this concurrency stamp, it is going to be used, right, for other fields. For example, I update the email, I update the phone number, right? So for that purpose, this concurrency stamp is going to be there. Phone number, whatever your mobile number you can enter, whether your mobile number is verified by sending one SMS, that is what it is going to be enabled by this phone number confirm field. Factor authentication, right? For example, you don't want to provide the user with direct login functionality by user entering the username and password. So once the user enter the username and password, I want to send one OTP to his registered email ID and phone number, which is confirmed. If not confirmed, it is not going to send, right, any email, and what I can say, it is not going to send any confirmation, or you can say OTP to his email and uh, phone number. So in order to enable two-factor authentication, that either email or phone number, anyone must be, right, confirmed. And then to that confirmed email and phone number, it is going to send a OTP, and then that OTP you need to enter in the next step after the login. And once you verify the OTP, then it is going to allow you to access the application. Lockout to enabled means what? Lockout end, lockout enabled, and lockout failed count. So basically, this lockout end means, do you want to enable lockout functionality for your application? Means if the user, right, give you access, try to log in using 3 failed attempt or 4 failed attempt, then I want to lock out that user. This kind of functionality you want to apply? Yes, I want to apply. So in that case, this lockout enabled should be true, which will ensure that this account can be locked out. And this access fail count, you can set a value, right, which is going to be, right, what I can say, reduced, right, every time there is a failed attempt. And when it reaches to zero, right, at that time, the account is going to be locked out. And that when it is going to be unlocked, right, that when it is going to be unlocked, that date and time it is going to store. So whatever the, if this date and time is not yet reached, you cannot access the application. If you are getting confused about these things, don't worry. So whatever I have provided here, every field I'm going to use practical. So I'm going to show you how to implement each password hash, how to store password hash, how the security stamp, concurrency stamp are coming into picture, how to verify email and phone number, how to implement two-factor authentication, how to implement this lockout functionality. All these things we are going to discuss practically. So this is the table, and the columns for this table are these. Clear?
Yes.
right? So the next table is, and guys remember, the data on this table is going to be managed by the user manager service. So I have already provided, there are three services. The one is user manager, role manager, and sign in manager. User manager service is going to manage the data inside this table. The next one is ASP.NET roles table. So this table is going to manage the role for your application. You can see ID, this is the unique identity primary key. Name, whatever the role name you want to provide. This is the normalized version, means the uppercase version of the role what you provided, that is used for ready case sensitive ready comparison concurrent system, means if you modify this value, then this value is going to be modified and the same name cannot be used anymore. Right, what exactly it means? For example, I created one admin, right, what I can say name. Later I renamed that admin to super admin. So already whoever the user having the admin role, they cannot access the application because this concurrency stamp is going to be changed. So this table data is going to be managed by the role manager class. So the role manager class provides some set of services. Services means they are providing some set of methods. Those methods we can use to access or manage the data inside this table, like creating the role, updating the role, deleting the role, modifying the role, right? All these things we can manage on this table. Clear?
Yes.
Next one is ASP.NET user roles table. So by looking at this ASP.NET user roles table, what you are understanding? So by looking at this table signature, what kind of a table is this? Guys, tell me.
One-to-many relation.
One-to-many relationship table.
So this is a joining table, man. Yes, it is not managing one to many. It is many to many. So joining table, when the joining table will come into the picture. So we have discussed, right, joining table, we have discussed, right, many to many relationship. In the case of a many to many relationship, it is going to create a joining table. So what exactly this table is going to manage? It is going to manage the user role relationship. So one user can be assigned with multiple roles, and at the same time, one role can be assigned to multiple users. Getting my point? For example, I'm creating
Yes.
as a role admin. I'm creating a role super admin. I'm creating a role sales. I'm creating a role HR. And I'm creating a role as a user. So I can create a one user who can have access to multiple roles. I can create a user who can have access to one role. I can create a user who can have access to two roles. I can create a user who can have access to all the roles. So that means what kind of a relationship is that? For example, if I'm creating one role admin, do you think that only one user can be assigned with the admin role or it can be assigned to multiple users?
It might be, sir.
But it can be assigned to multiple users. So there is many to many relationship. And this is a joining table. And this table is going to contains the data between user and a role. And this table can be accessed by both the user manager as well as the role manager class. How to access? Right? Internally, they are going to access this table. We are not going to access. See, whenever we are creating a user and whenever assigning some role or whenever we are creating a role and assigning that role with some user, at that time, we can make use of this table. Right? So guys, remember, both options are there and I'm also going to show you both options. I will create one user and I will assign that user with multiple roles. That is one part. Second part, what I'm going to discuss, I will create one role and I can assign that role to multiple user. That is also possible. If I'm creating one user assigning multiple roles, then in that case, that user manager will come into the picture. If I'm creating one role and assigning that role to multiple user, at that time role manager will come into the picture. Both of these options I'm going to discuss right in our comment section. So I will show you how we can create a user and then assign that user with multiple roles. At the same time, I'm also going to discuss how I can create a role and how I can assign that roles to multiple users. That is also possible. So for that purpose, it is going to make use of user manager and the role manager classes. We'll see this thing practical. So whatever I'm showing, explaining here, everything I'm going to show you practically. Clear? Yes or no?
Okay, sir.
Yes.
Yes, this is a joining table. Don't think too much about it. This is a joining table, composite primary key, and this user ID pointing to ID of the users table, and this role ID pointing to ID of the roles table. That is fine. Now, ASP.NET users login. So ASP.NET users login means this is basically coming to the picture, right? When we enable third-party authentication in our application. So third-party authentication means what? Means, right? What exactly it means? It means if you are providing, so nowadays, if you visit any website, they are also providing login with Facebook, login with Google, login with Twitter. So Twitter is replaced with the X, right? So instead of saying Twitter, right? Twitter, okay, let us also give this as X. Right. So login with a different external provider is also possible. If you are logging with Google, Facebook, Twitter, Microsoft, then those information it is going to store here. So first of all, the login provider and the login provider key, this is a composite primary key. Right? Composite primary key means the combination is going to be unique. So login provider, it can be your Google, Facebook, Twitter, Microsoft. This is nothing but your login provider. Login provider key means, right? For your user information, so you are logging into Facebook as a user. So for you, Facebook will provide a unique key to you. So that unique key we need to store here. For each individual user, Facebook, Google, Twitter, Microsoft, they are going to provide a unique key, and that unique key we need to store here. The combination is going to be unique. Provided display name. So instead of displaying google.com, I want to display Google Facebook. So whatever the name it is going to be display on the UI, that the display name is going to be this one. User ID means what? For example, nowadays, right? This is also very interesting, guys. So only creating a logging with external provider is not more than enough. For example, if I'm going to I'm using as a local user. And as a local user, I want to sign in with external authentication. So that combination, if you want to manage, means I can access using external authentication. I can also access as a local user. So for right, what I can say to link the external authentication with the local user, this user ID column is going to be there. So in this case, right, you can access both the functionality. You can log in as external authentic user, or you can also act as a local user. So this user ID column is basically going to link your external authentication with your local account, right? I'll show you how you can link this, how you can integrate Google, Facebook, right? So out of this four, I will explain, right, how to integrate it or three and one or two, right? I will give you as a task, right? So I'm not going to implement all these four functionality. I'm going to implement a out of four. I'm going to show you how to integrate a three and one. I will give you as a task, right? So that you can also integrate one of the external authentication provider. So this ASP.NET user tokens, right? So this is basically going to use, right? What I can say to manage the tokens. Tokens means what? Now, for example, you want to send a password reset token to the user. You want to set a two-factor authentication token to the user, right? So for that purpose, it is going to use this thing. So this user ID, what is the user ID table identity column? Login provider means the token is going to be sent by the external provider or our local provider. That's what we need to store here. Token name, password reset, change password, forget password, right, email verification, phone number verification. This is going to be name. And what is its actual value of that token? That value we need to store here. So this is also I'm going to show you, right, minimum, right, the password reset, email confirmation, access token, right, phone number verification, forget password, right. All these things we are going to implement, and at that time, this ASP.NET user tokens table will come into the picture. And this table is going to be managed by the user manager class. ASP.NET user claims. So claims means what? Now, for example, if you want to store some additional information about the user, which is not available in the user table, additional information which is required for the validation purpose. For example, I want to create a claim called delete. I want to create a claim, right? For example, date of birth, right? Any information which you want to store additionally for the user, that claim and the corresponding value you need to store here. For example, this is the primary key, this is the user for which you are adding some claim. Claim type means what type of a claim, right? You can give birth date, the corresponding value, email, what is the actual email address, right? For example, delete, yes, update, yes, add, no. So any kind of a claim type on the corresponding value you can add here. And guys, remember, adding more claim will take more time, right? So if you are adding more claims and if you are generating the access token, the token size is going to be high. So please add only those tokens, right? Or those claims into the tokens which are required by your application. Unnecessary token will right make a burden for your right access token. So similarly, this is user claims. And here one more thing you need to remember. In this case, the claim is directly assigned to the user. In this case, the claim is directly assigned to the user. So instead of assigning this claims to user, is it possible that I will assign these claims to a role, and those users who are having that role, is that possible that those users are also having this claim? Yes, that is possible. How? So for that purpose, we need to use this ASP.NET role claim. So in this case, in the previous example, claim are assigned with the user, but in this case, claim are assigned to role, and this role is alternatively going to be assigned to user. So whoever the user having this role, they are also having this right set of a claim. So that is also possible. Clear, guys?
Yes, sir.
Right. So
Yes.
this is right things what we are doing. And right, as I have already discussed, we are having three services. One is user manager, sign-in manager, role manager. User manager is basically going to manage the user functionality, creating, managing user, managing password, managing user roles, lockout functionality, two-factor authentications, right? All these things is going to be managed by user manager class. How we can use this? So very simple, what I need to do is I need to create a private variable using user manager where I need to specify the T user, that is identity user, and the framework is going to right, inject the instance right of this user manager, and then using this user manager I can create many feature, right, many operations. So what are the operations? So for creating these operations, right, we are going to use this method: create async, delete async, find by email async, find by name async, update async. So all this method, whatever provided by this user manager service, it access using this user manager, right? So whatever all these methods, what the list I have provided here, at the end of ASP.NET Core identity, you will be in a very good position to understand the use of each of these methods. So whatever method right I have provided, I'm going to use all these methods so that you will get the clarity. Similarly, sign-in manager means it is basically related to your right sign in, login, and logout functionality. So you want to enable sign in, external authentication, sign out, two-factor authentication, sign in. And so for this functionality, you can make use of sign in. So how to use? Again, very same. So using the sign in manager service where I need to provide the identity user, and using this sign in manager, right, it is provided some method like password sign in, sign out, refresh sign in async. And all these methods we can use. How to use this method? What is the use of each independent method? We are going to discuss practically. Similarly, role manager is there, right, to manage the role. For example, creating and deleting role, checking whether the role exists, managing role claims, adding or removing roles from users, right? Adding, removing users from roles, right? So all these things, if you want to manage, you need to use the role manager. How to use this concept is same, role manager, and here I need to pass identity role. Using this role manager service, right? I can create, update, delete, right? Many functions which are related to role, right? That what I can manage. So this is the introduction, right? So tomorrow we are going to start the functionality starting from user registration, login, logout, sign in, sign off, right? All these things we are going to right, understand practically from tomorrow. This is just the introduction, and whatever method I have provided in this list. If you want to understand identity means what, you need to understand all these methods. How to use method, when to use method, what these methods is going right doing internally. That what we need to understand. Once we understand, right, then we can say yes, we know ASP.NET Core identity. Clear, guys?
Yeah, thank you.
Yes, Dr. Leo.
Okay, so
Okay.
this is introduction of ASP.NET Core Identity. From tomorrow, we are going to start implementing the functionality using the different kind of services. Anyone having any more question, guys?
Tomorrow is the same time or?
Timing is same, right? The morning batch is 6:30 to 8:30.
No, the Azure also is going in parallel, right?
Azure, right? Azure is different, right? I'm not taking Azure, right? As I already mentioned, my friend is going to take Azure. So that Azure, whoever
But
wants
some
to
of the people is enrolled there also. That's what I was.
it's that they have to manage this thing, right? So Azure means you can
You have a
create
video, or if you don't mean,
any,
Okay.
if you are enrolling for Azure, right? What I can suggest at this point of time, just to go through the Azure session, and
Okay.
this recorded session is also provided. Also, in case, right, also I'm taking the evening batch, right? After 1 month also, I'm going to discuss this identity in the evening batch. At that time, you can also join the evening session,
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
right? Sure, because, right, anyhow,
yeah.
this is going to take, right, 10 to 15, maximum 15 sessions for ASP.NET Core Identity. 10 to 15. I'm not saying 10 or 15, in between 10 to 15. But you should not miss that ASP.NET Core Azure. Because for Azure, right, guys, remember, right, current market is demanding two things. One is Azure, another one is microservices. ASP.NET Core is mandatory. ASP.NET Core with microservices, ASP.NET Core with Azure. So these are the add-on. So those add-on
Yeah,
will
yeah.
give a high chance to stay in the industry in this right competitive world. So
Highly
you need
demand, yeah.
right. So you need to right what I can say, learn those things. And for microservices, these are the mandatory things. You should know these things. But for Microsoft Azure, ASP.NET Core C# is not prerequisite. That is completely different story altogether. How you are managing the data, application, software, infrastructure in the cloud. That is what all about Azure. And you should know this thing. So what I can suggest, please try to attend the session tomorrow, right? Microsoft Azure session. And then I'm providing this recorded session. You can go through the recording also. And I'm going to take identity after 1 month in the evening batch. So at that time also you can attend the identity. Clear, guys?
Yeah, sure,
Yeah,
sure.
it's clear.
Why
Yes,
not?
yes, sir.
Thank you.
So thank you, guys. Anyone having any more question?
No, sir. Thank you.
All
Thank
clear.
you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, sir.